It's very dangerous in this world, okay? And my hero, she can be destroyed if someone attacks her from close enough. And what happens is the person she's been hunting gets the drop on her, but doesn't shoot quick enough. And so she's got her gun pointed at him, and he's got his gun pointed at her. And so they're in a standoff. But what happens at the same time is a third party that's there also has his gun, and she's pointing a gun at him, and the guy who who got the drop on her is also doesn't know, and so all three of these people are pointing their guns at each other, and one of them is Latino. So what we're gonna watch right now, we might watch this and then we might watch another one. I just want to see it. I avoided kind of purposefully, for the same reason that other people probably do, Vaush's media takes, because I thought they were really bad. I found myself, this is also because I was a fan, you know, I watched Vaush shit all the time. I'm very familiar with his work. It decreased over the last year and fell off complete. It would have, I would have, if I didn't start doing content creation, I would have for sure stopped watching him almost completely. Same with Xander Hall's, kind of similar, you know, like that orbit kind of disintegrating. I'm just not interested in it at all almost anymore, because I just don't think their coverage is particularly good, and I like them for the blood sports, and they just don't do it. So, you know what I mean? But when I was watching his stuff, he did have bad media takes. I realize that now. I think the thing I got hung up on was, I can't remember exactly what it was, because I was just listening to a live stream and I started ignoring him, but it was something to do with the FromSoft series. Don't spoil me. I'll probably make my way back to it eventually. But it was something about FromSoft. Someone else was talking about it in chat on the Discord. Join the Discord, by the way. Was talking about it in one of the chats on the Discord, and I was like, I think I almost remember him talking about that stuff. And like, I don't know I don't know if it was the exact thing that the person in the Discord was talking about, but I remember being like, fuck. This isn't interesting, you know what I mean? And so like, I pretty much started skipping, kind of unconsciously skipping all of his media take videos, because I just wanted to get to the stuff I liked about him, which was debates. And so now I have started viewing the Vaush content that I wasn't interested in, and I want to see if me covering it will have the same reaction for other people that it had for me, where I'm like, oh, damn, like, the charlatan allegations go deeper than originally felt. And of course, he might also be like right about stuff. I'll give him credit. If he's correct or just like not offensive in his opinion making, fine. This one is about superheroes. It's Vaush as Omni-Man is the thumbnail, and we're going to check it out. Demon Mama is her own forest and will never be a waiting room. I need to talk to Demon Mama at some point, but I just don't know what. I don't know about what.
One of the fundamental points that I've always had about this is that in a world where people randomly get superpowers, it is impossible to maintain the existing social order, because all political power ultimately comes from the barrel of a gun, and if you have people who can't be shot, they have no material incentive to obey the law.
Okay, what? This might actually be the one I remember. I gotta hear him now.
One of the fundamental points that I've always had about this is that in a world where people randomly get superpowers, it is impossible.
Is this Metro? This just looks like Metro, like crazy. This has to be Metro.
To maintain the existing social order, because all political power ultimately comes from the barrel of a gun, and if you have people who can't be shot, they have no material incentive to obey the law. The only reason legal systems and politics work is because all human beings are mortal. It's as simple as that. And if you have people who are capable of superseding those laws, there's absolutely no reason why they wouldn't. At first,
that's a weird take. There's some, that's a deep political, like we're getting into like from whence is derived the rule of law, and it suggests that is he suggesting that all obeisance to law is amoral, but but actually a fact, like a product of fear? Is that what we're getting? Are we doing that articulation? Because that's am I crazy? You guys can let me know. But so the only reason that people follow laws is because they can't be harmed. So the threat of harm is the sole point from which morality, or not morality, but the authority of power is derived. Very, very socialist, very, 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 very fucking Marxist-Leninist, actually. Well, that's wrong, observably. Because even people that are immune to harm still obey the law. You know what I'm saying? There's people that have reasonable expectations of immunity from damage. Most human beings, and most Americans at least, in my opinion, aren't particularly afraid of getting killed by a gun, and so they pay their taxes. Maybe some people are, and there's always that insinuation, I guess, but that's so deep down. But we don't, as a society, enforce laws through immediate fatal violence via gun. We enforce laws a lot of times via social stigma, is what does most. Because I don't leave my house with my clothes on because I'm afraid of getting shot. I leave my house with my clothes on, first off, because I like wearing clothes. But I guess if I was a degenerate, I would just more likely be worried of being shamed. So that's a massive claim. That's a massive claim that you would have to back up. Immunity from repercussion can create an individual who no longer desires to obey the law, but it's not like he desires to disobey all laws, just maybe the laws that specifically he felt compelled to obey because of the repercussions that existed. So like Superman specifically, you have to rewrite the character to one of the other evil versions of Superman because he was just raised right in Kansas. And so he understands the value of human life and property rights, I guess. And so defends those because he's immune from damage. He's more likely to defend them because he's not afraid of the reprisal of the criminal. But there is no evidence that all law and all power of law is derived simply from violence. It's just, it can be, but that requires ignorance of all of the laws that exist that you obey without violent. When you obey the rules of a board game, are you afraid of being shot to death because you took an extra $1 from the Monopoly bank? You know what I mean? No, we're ignoring the existence of real fundamental. This is crazy, actually. That ignores the existence of fundamental aspects of philosophy. What is it, Locke? Right? This is why I need to talk to fucking Sunday more often. Sunday, if you're watching, please correct me. I think it's Locke established it's either Locke or Hobbes. I always get them. It was all the same semester in college. This is why I get them confused. Established the social contract as one of the explainers from whence is derived the authority of law. And so people obey the law not because of the threat of violence, although that is an aspect of it, but rather because the freedom sacrificed by the individual is there in return safety and aspects of protection from society. You know what I mean? So because you are giving up your freedom to do shit you might otherwise do, you give up that freedom because collectively you found the sacrifice of that freedom, which you may or may not value, the freedom to speed to a degree. Okay, I kind of like the speed. The freedom to kill. I don't really want to kill anyone. the freedom to engage in violence over the slightest provocation. Like, okay, that's like a serious sacrifice to me, but I'll give all of those up for the benefits that society provides, because the society is so good. You know, it functions because we are all participants to a degree in the social contract. Even if you don't agree with social contract theory, I think it's pretty valuable. Hobbes is the social contract. Thank you. There's aspects of the social contract that are like, it's good and it's bad, but like on its face, I feel like just even when I articulate the social contract out, even if it's not an objective and absolute fact of from whence is authority derived, it provides an immediate annihilation to the core point of what he's trying to make. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just no, because I can provide any counterexamples, which is one of the reasons where it's like, don't try to deal in absolutes. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Because a single anecdotal a single bit of anecdotal evidence against an absolute statement defeats the absoluteness of the statement. So you need to just craft statements with the understanding that there may be some level of variability that you'll find down the road. This is why we have theories and stuff, and not everything is a law, even at the hardest level of science. So when you have to step back to something like this, you really have to like pull it in. And I know we're 45 seconds in and we're already on a fucking like a stun lock, but this is just basic. This is basic political education. Like these are fundamental ideas of the Enlightenment around which the entirety of liberal democracy is established, and also around where Marx built his variety of economic socialism and communism. It derives from aspects of this. The reason why there would still be, you know, a united proletariat is because the proletarians know that cooperation is better. That's why it's you're organizing and stuff, because the cooperation is better. You don't organize because if one person steps out of line, you're going to murder them. So that's not, even in a communist society, that's not where the rule of law should be derived from. It's from the mutual benefits, the mutual beneficence of cooperative organization, because we're social creatures. It's just obviously good for us to work together. And then, yes, certain laws must be, you know, a person that goes against society to such an extreme they have to be killed, that is a repercussion that exists. But the repercussion does not negate the presence of the motivation. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I stop eating, I will die. Okay, but I don't just eat to live. You know, I live to eat. I'm a higher order creature. I don't exist simply for the rabbit and the stick. I enjoy food. That's why I cook. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a slightly different example. If I lost you because you have, you know, a train issue, please feel free to ask questions. I can clarify this stuff later. I'm going to try to push on. But like, this is a fundamental aspect of like politics 101. Like, even the dumbest fucking GOPers will understand this. So like, there's a very deep issue with trying to base anything off of this. I think this is one of the most interesting things about looking at his side takes. I think he's a lot more cautious. Vaush is a lot more cautious and sort of like coding over his charlatanry when he's talking about stuff that people are more knowledgeable about relative to this sphere. But you can really see him show his ass kind of when he has to apply his methodology outside of his comfort zone, which is very, very, very interesting. You are charged with the crime of cringe. This hereby sentences you to death. People try not to be cringe, right? That's a social rule, is that cringe is bad, right? And you know that's a derivation of a rule. It affects the way that you engage. Fuck, dude. Like, seriously, unironically, occasionally, if you don't mind being a little bit bored, engage in a fucking President Sunday stream. I know I'm glazing the guy a little bit, but I was listening to him to talk about this fucking Homo Ludens shit, and he was talking about rules and play and stuff, and it kind of works really well going into this. Rules of play are established kind of on the fly by people, but people still adhere to the rules. You know, if you're like little kids, start playing tag in the front yard, the rule system by which they establish their game of tag has, you have to go to, you're either a willing good faith participant. I think his other two things are a cheat or a not a killjoy, but the same sort of thing, spoil sport. But you obey the rules of play, not because of the danger of violence from other children, but because understanding that following the rules of play and understanding them and engaging with them improves the quality of the game for everybody, yourself included. So like this is why you would have to stop him off rip. If you don't understand this and you're like Tyler's, you're Vaush obsessed. Unironically, I think I am a little bit, because once I start peeling it back, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and I like talking. So like, this is an aspect of a lot of his argument. You would have to stop nothing he says after this point can be addressed, because this is a fundamental, like definitional impasse that you can't go past. It's the same thing with my debate with him, was failing to establish a definition of fascism or fashion, a definition of fashion and a definition of status that equate to, well, first off, reality, but also that you could both agree on. But he sits inside that sort of like non-zone of that wishy-washy area between things, and sort of just says whatever the fuck he wants. But you would have to stop the entire conversation right here, 45 seconds in, because his premises are so inherently flawed. Nothing he says after this can be justified. So like, unless he changes in the next, if he amends itself in like the next 45 seconds, fair. But also, even having to throw in that amendment, have your editor cut off the few seconds of it or something. But it's crazy.
First, for some people, it would be simple stuff like robbing banks to get money so that they can pay for shit for their family or whatever. But I believe this very sincerely, eventually everything would descend down into just like warlording, You're literally Thomas Hobbes. No, this isn't about humans being fundamentally. Everything would descend down. But I believe this very sincerely, eventually everything would descend down into just like warlording.
You gotta tell me, if you're a Vaush Glazer, you have to tell, because I have the kind of train aficionado disorders where I can't tell when Vaush is doing a bit. That seems to be one of the issues that's raised with me. So if you're a Vaush Glazer, could you please tell me whether or not him saying "I believe this sincerely" is a bit or not? Because my version, I guess, I'm on the spectrum of understanding every human being on Earth when they have a conversation and what they're saying to me, except for Vaush. He's my blind spot. So if you are a Vaush Glazer, could you please tell me if him saying "and I believe this sincerely," if that's a bit or not? Just so that I need to know. You need to let me in on if this is a joke the whole time, but please do it before you decide that you agree or disagree.
You're literally Thomas Hobbes. No, this isn't about
literally
humans being fundamentally bad. This is about power differences being fundamentally bad. That if you have a system where people are capable of transcending the incentives by which people are kept in line by the law, that some of them will reject those systems. And the more things break down, the less of an incentive there is for people to abide by those systems.
This is actually kind of crazy, because this is pro-capitalism. This is a pro-capitalist, anti-egalitarian argument. I don't know if you guys caught that. This is anti-egalitarianism. This is fucking Harris, or is it Thomas or Harrison Bergeron? The statement is that if people are provided a post-scarcity society, basically, like literally, if they have access to a post-scarcity moment, they'll no longer follow the law, which is not an argument made by Marxists or socialists that I know of. That's an argument made by slavers and capitalists, that you have to keep people hungry in order to keep them obedient. If you have a law that can only be enforced through unmitigated violence, then then of what value is the law? You have to describe this law, because I have to I'm not a lawyer, but I covered enough fucking crime and court stuff that I can't off the top of my head think of any fucking law on earth that every single person on earth, or every sapient organism, if we're going to try to hand wave this and say for some reason superheroes aren't human, we have to, definitionally, you have to approach what humanity is at that point, which is another philosophical conversation that's people have been having already for like 3,000 years. You can get a head start on it by reading a few books. I don't know any human being, I've never seen a single law that every single person, at least in America, maybe over in some shithole fucking, like, you know, fascist nightmare Nazi country, but that every single person only followed it because of the unmitigated and direct threat of violence carried out by the state against them. What law is that? Do you know what I mean? And I know the joke is going to be, it's the law that mom said I can't get any tendies tonight. It's the only one that's funny. I know I'll be murdered otherwise. But like, you have to define that law, because that's such an extraordinary statement that you have to provide some level of proof for it. It might slide over the fucking mind of somebody that's never, you know, I don't mean to be like haughty about it, but never been to like college and taken a fucking 101 political philosophy course. But like that's a crazy statement to make, sincerely believed in. Like we're saying that, like, never mind. I'll let him continue, because otherwise I'm going to get locked
really
out.
Ask yourself, by the way, in a world as fucked up as in Metro, if you were bulletproof.
He didn't necessarily, sorry, I'm correct. He didn't say necessarily post scarcity, but he's describing people for whom scarcity would no longer be an impingement. So like, the scarcity of safety is a scarcity, by the way. Scarcity is not just food and medicine specifically. Safety itself is a commodity. It's sold to you. You know what I mean? It's traded. It's an aspect of what you have to spend money on. You just don't notice it because it's tied into the police and the military and stuff. So there's no longer a supply and demand issue with you for safety at all. So you're post scarcity and safety. Because of that, you also can have anything that you want, and you can't be hungry anymore. So like, now, because you can't be hungry and you can't be deprived and you can't be made fearful, now you will commit crime. Whereas before, when you were hungry and when you were afraid and when you were at risk of illness or homelessness, only then were you paying obedience to the state. That's where that argument goes, because it's a logical chain. It's not like a slippery slope. It's just it's a statement. If you're saying that people only follow laws because there are aspects of scarcity placed upon them, you know, threat to your life, threat to your access to food. He said literally, like, they would rob banks. Why do you rob a bank? You rob a bank to get money. So he either believes in the inherent moral degeneracy of human beings, like Michael Knowles would make the same argument. People rob banks because they want to rob banks. Tim Pool makes that argument. People rob banks because they're bad people. They literally argue that theft would not occur. Theft would continue to occur even in a post-scarcity society, which could, you know, I mean, it would happen probably, but that, like, giving people stuff at all, you know, would mitigate theft and property crime. That property crime is not based on an absence of possession, but rather a presence of moral degeneracy. That is the same argument that Vaush is on his face making, because there's no other interpretation for it. You know what I mean?
Do you really think you would live from cradle to grave without killing people for money or for food? Like, you really think in a world where basic fundamental elements of society have broken down, if you're capable of surviving gunshots, that you wouldn't use that to some extent? Of course you would. You would do it in ways that make sense to you. You would try to do good. And maybe sometimes you would do good. But sometimes you would be, let's say, questionable. We all act questionably in day-to-day. Even normal moral people do. We're not perfect arbiters of morality. Now, let's say it's not just you who has powers, but it's thousands of people around the country. Do you think all of them are going to be moral all the time? Don't you think some of them are going to believe that they could fix society's problems if they took control? Don't you think some of them, maybe even some of the people in chat, might think, wow, society is fucked up. People are starving. People are dying. If I took control, then maybe I could save this. Maybe I could fix these problems.
This is there was one statement made, and now we're talking about a completely different situation, because we're no longer describing a different world. We're describing the current world that we live in. People already think like that and already do that. I guess okay, yeah, sure. If people had superpowers, they would do normal, like the existence of superpowers would not eliminate bad behavior. Agreed.
This happens.
Are we arguing for the possible existence of supervillains?
This happened in real life. The difference is, in real life, despots still aren't bulletproof. You guys understand the point that I'm trying to make, right? Things would go bad quickly. So the premise that I think would be fun exploring in these little novelettes or short stories or whatever. Well, hold on. Well, like, yeah, this already happens in superhero stories. They just call the other hero villains. No. That's the
Base chatter. Like, yeah, what are you talking about? That was a crazy road to walk down. That was a crazy road to walk down. I would suggest to Vaush to just try reading a little known comic about what would like more realistic superheroes be, called The Watchmen by Alan Moore.
Juvenility of regular superhero stories. Villains exist to do petty crimes in a system that has been maintained. The DC, the Marvel Universe, the world still operates as normal. Work culture, the agriculture industry, military-industrial complex, nation-states, borders, all of it works as normal.
This is always the issue I have when I run. I don't think Vaush reads that many comics, I guess, because just his statement defeats the existence of New 50. New 52 has just been blown out of continuity in DC. I can just say, you can just say New 52. Fluh. Your argument is gone. Multiple Earths, multiverses. That's the comic. If we're talking about DC and Marvel, there's so many different continuities where, like, so in comics there is a concept called Elseworlds, where the status quo isn't, and those have existed since before I was alive, and I'm 36. So that's crazy. There's also more than street level heroes. There's also more than there's more. The Silver Surfer existing. Just the Silver Surfer is my response. Done. The Silver Surfer exists, which obviously implies the existence of Galactus, world-destroying uber tyrant, mega fucking whatever. I can't remember if he's an immortal or a whatever the fuck, the giant floating heads thing. I can't remember what Galactus is. Just a gigantic thing that eats worlds. People fight it. You know, like, there's the Nova Corps and the Green Lanterns. They go up and down in different directions. You have the opposite of the Justice League, not the Injustice League, but the one where they're all fucking despots, and like Lex Luthor is like a good guy scientist. You have these stories. These already fucking exist. Like, and some of them are pretty mid and some of them are good. Like, Mongol is a guy. Like, Mongol is out there with his giant world of people that fight underneath. Darkseid exists. You can just go to Apocalypse and fight Darkseid and Granny Goodness. He rules over his world, and the people he keeps under his heel worship him as a god and love him as he searches the cosmos for the anti-life equation. This is Crime Syndicate. Thank you. Alan Natherson, correct. Owlman. This doesn't matter. None of this matters. God damn, I love Owlman. Yeah, Injustice. Like this is wild. I know we're only 30 minutes and 17 seconds, but like it's fundamental premises. What if someone wrote a comic where Superman wasn't the good guy? What if somebody wrote a comic book where Batman used his powers for evil? Like, bro, there's like joke covers about that from like 1968.
And then you just sprinkle superheroes and villains on top of that. That doesn't work. In reality, these systems.
I think he just watched The Boys and thought he was on some big brain shit. This is all of this makes 100% sense if you have only seen. If you've only seen like fucking mass market release Marvel and DC movies, this makes perfect sense because they always go through origin stories over and over and over and over and over again. And so you never see things spiral out of control as power creep happens. But like it also defeats the existence, like what he's also describing is just fantasy. So like if we take it back from comics and Sauron is just this. Sauron is a literal immortal elven god deity king creature with an army of he can't be killed unless you throw a ring into fucking fire at his house that he owns still and is surrounded by flesh-eating demons and giant spiders. Like these concepts already exist. My man is just trying to re-speedrun BBEG. You know what I mean? Like It's crazy that it's crazy. Never mind. I'll just keep going.
People in chat, please stop trying to draw comparisons to every fucking story they've ever heard in their lives. I'm getting so triggered. Holy fuck, nobody is impressed. Jesus Christ, stop. Just listen. Holy fuck. Anyway, okay? The thing that I think would be interesting is that, like, sometime 6 months ago, okay, people start randomly getting superpowers, blah, blah, okay. And the protagonist that we follow is a person who used to work like as a social worker and is making an effort to keep things from falling, okay? And she can do this in large part because she is slightly more bulletproof than the average person. Slightly, okay? Marginally more so. She's operating somewhere out in the Midwest. People are starving out there because agricultural systems broke down completely and there are bandits on the road and blah, blah. And everyone uses superhumans like mercenaries because superhumans are basically the only people.
Old man Wolverine.
Who can safely transport anything to anywhere else. Large parts of the country are starting to fall to warlords. You know, the government has their planes and their tanks, but what does that mean against some of the superhumans? Absolutely nothing. Nothing. Because some of these superhumans are moderately strong, you know? And I thought, and I've said this before, it seems to me like in any kind of superhero setting, superheroes would have their strength graded based on how easy it is to kill them, you know? Like, maybe some superhumans are just really strong, but if you sneak behind them with a baseball bat, you could conceivably kill them, you know? And you could call those tier 1 superhumans or something. Like,
The Boys.
If in a straight fight, they would fuck you up. But a very well-trained human, or if you have a weapon on them, you could kill them, you know? And maybe tier 2 would be like...
Also, Shield. X-Men.
You would need a firearm. You would need... if there's no reasonable way a human being could kill them, you would need a firearm. That's the only shot you have at beating them in a fight. And maybe tier 3 would be like, oh shit, small arms fire doesn't affect them anymore. Like, if you're at a tier 3...
Red Sun is wild. Red Sun is like...
anymore,
Red Sun, by the way, if I can give a comic recommendation, because it's a good short run that fucking goes unfathomably hard, you should read Superman Red Sun. It's like the only good... It's the only, like, kind of perfect Batman or Superman isn't, like, a good guy that doesn't make Superman, like, a bad guy because, I don't know, he gets full of dark side particles or some shit. He's just raised as a communist, and, like, it actually is pretty fucking pro-humanity by the end. unironically, I think despite the bad things that happen to some superheroes, like Superman Red Sun, if I remember correctly at the end, is kind of like a better overall conclusion to the Cold War than what happened in real life. Superman Red Sun is very good. Oh, fucking neck breaker, Wonder Woman's in it.
No longer kill you. Regular average human beings no longer have the ability to kill you, period, you know? But maybe military ordnance can. Maybe anti-tank rifles, anti-materiel rifles, stuff like that. Maybe those can penetrate your skin, you know? But maybe tier 4, you literally need military equipment to be killed. Tanks, heavy ordnance, bombing, that kind of stuff. And
I know it's a bit of a stretch, but BPRD. Hellboy.
Past that, I mean, it only gets worse from there. But to me, the idea would be, like, if you're tier 3 or tier 4, you're functionally immortal to anything other than a military strike. So why wouldn't you just turn into a warlord? I mean, literally, you...
No, but that's like the question. Fucking damn it. What's the really good All-Star Superman? There you go. Also, can I just do a series of One Punch Man, Mob Psycho 100 are also pretty good ones in that. To a lesser extent, Mashley Muscles is Magic. These are already like established. That's the whole question. Like you're describing the plot of multiple books that have already existed. You don't have to ask. This what if has been established. I mean, once you've like seen the other books, you could try writing it again. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even One Punch Man has it boiled down to like you do have. It's like, yeah, this guy is threat level fucking tiger, threat level dragon, threat level god, whatever. I think there's another one that's smaller, and you have heroes that are A, B, C, D, S class, or you know whatever D, C, B, A, S. So like this just already exists completely. Like you're just describing Saitama and the other people that exist in the One Punch world, kind of like shot for shot. I guess you just have a different like start, you know?
At that point, you are functionally incapable of being stopped by anything around you, you know? And my thought would be that the character who we're following, from her perspective, she is borderline before tier 2. Like, if you shot her with a 9mm from 100 feet, it would bounce off her skin, but up close it wouldn't. I mean, she is like on that line. So she's just strong enough that she's much more durable,
thanks for the $10.
faster and stronger than the average human.
Oh, he's got the little hands.
But up close, like she could literally be snuck up to and shot in the back of the head, and that'd be that. You know? So she's on the borderline where she's vulnerable to regular humans with regular human being shenanigans.
A 9mm is not going to do.
But she's still way...
A 9mm is going to have about the same penetration at 100 feet as it does. I think that's what he said. As it does at point blank.
And her goal in the story is to try to vaguely keep society together. You know? And the story would be, it follows her meeting with other people, that she travels between Midwest towns working as a
spooky member for 1 month. If I could have 3 powers, what would I pick? I mean, can I just tell you my favorite power? No, because it's a spoiler. I wouldn't. So I can't tell you that one. That's my... I would just have the Force. I feel like that counts as 3 powers. I would just have the Force. Just all psionics. Just anything that's psionics, I think is just... I think it's just tits. They're just always the best. It's cool to have like super strength, high jump, laser eyes, whatever the fuck. I know people like it, but psionics just always make for the best power set, and like they're my favorite villains, and if I had powers, I would want to have psionics. Because it's always like you have one guy who's like running around doing Hulk shit and stuff, but it's always cool to have a dude who's in the back. You can't even tell the dude has powers. He never does anything, but because he's there, he's like flicking pennies at 700 miles an hour into people's heads. Like, that's just fucking cool as shit. Telepathy, mind control, levitation, dude, the Force in a general sense, but just like any psionics powers, I'll just stack them up.
sort of on hire mercenary,
Plastic
moving
Man,
food
you just want
trucks
to be
from one
Plastic
place
Man
to another,
for-
making sure people get their pay, basically trying to keep people from starving. And the more she follows this thread, the more she realizes
Cast
that the
spells.
greatest threats that she's
Yeah.
facing aren't coming from random bandits and marauders. They're coming from agents of warlords in adjacent towns, regions, counties, states, and that those warlords are being coordinated by the state government. That
Dead Man Wonderland.
essentially, in the absence of a functioning United States, the powers that be instead settled on keeping warlords in their pay. Okay, maybe we...
Also, this is literally. I hope he doesn't have to write this because it already exists, and this is literally just Old Man Logan. To a T, not necessarily the movie, although the movie kind of has this vibe, but this is just the Old Man Logan comic series, almost shot for shot. And there's a series of other ones that are similar to this.
Can't
That
keep
sound exactly
America
the same.
together the way it was before, but we can keep 50 to 100 incredibly strong warlords more or less on our side, because if they go against us, we send our boys after them. Essentially, Washington is just
The power of the
Black Ops
P-90 from
hit
Stargate.
squad
True.
that deploys after warlords who no longer agree to play the game. You know? Does that make sense?
Is this also just like a
Basically,
libertarian
it's the story
control
of
fantasy?
A well-intentioned superhuman trying to keep the town she grew up in together, realizing that the problems with the system that she lives in are being reproduced by the powers that be trying to maintain control in the absence of a stable functioning government. If that makes any sense. Okay?
Okay, another one. And if you count the fact that you can constantly use stim packs, Fallout.
Yes, Grand, essentially. Does she eventually get stronger? Yes, for reasons that would be incredibly nerdy for me to describe. When does she get big arm? That's a different person, different protag. This is a different person. The protag of the manga idea, that would be like tier 6. That would be unkillable by known means. Does she become evil when she powers up? No, the goal would be, I wouldn't call them tier 6. That sounds kind of dumb, you know. Anyway, I don't know, I think it'd be cool. The idea that I had for her power is that there's a kind of special metal that starts...
What is it? Restarting as a horse in another world?
Spreading in certain parts of the world like a fungus. And it did
Have you
so
reviewed any of
spontaneously.
Eric July's libertarian superhero comics? None of his libertarian stuff, but I read ism, which, fuck, that goddamn word.
When people started getting superhumans. Like, basically, you know how, like, literally, like, you're out in the forest and you see, like, thin streaks of silver running across, like, a tree. And that metal is psychokinetic. It's receptive to certain people's thoughts. And it's receptive to her thoughts. And
All right, kids, so what you see is I got this idea, right? It's called allomancy, and it's gonna be big.
And she...
Because the thing is when you... This is the problem with, like, freestyle inventing from scratch your own, like, little world, but, like, not actually writing it out is... This is just every writer's group where people are like, I have an idea for a story. I want to talk about all my ideas and I'm never going to write any of it down kind of thing. I'm past this. I already have I have books. I've written fucking books. You know what I mean? When I tell you guys about my power system, you can go read the books where it is and try to figure it out yourself, or at least listen to the stories. And the one book, 2 books. There's actually 2 books. I can say books. This is, it's just like, all right, so like in my world, what I would do is, you know, it's just like, dude, just fucking make a D&D campaign about it. I mean, it's kind of interesting, you know, but like the fact that it kind of started off with you, it just seems like you don't read enough because there's so many of these things that are already like, they just exist, you know. It's crazy that you have so little knowledge of like the whole world you're talking, like that whole creative industry that you're talking about, that it's just parallel after parallel to things that have already been done so well that you would need to you have to at some point in this, and this is the thing. It's not like I'm saying don't ever make anything, but if you're out here and you're like, oh, Tyler, you're killing the creative process. No, this is just part of it. You have to it's okay to make stuff that's similar. Like if you want to make something that's set up like Old Man Logan, you know, or like have your take on Mad Max Fury Road. I compare my own work to Twin Peaks all the time because I just love the vibe of Twin Peaks. That's okay. But you're going to have to put in something that is so fucking interesting and has never been done in that context before that it has a novelty that brings you to there. Starting in another world with my smartphone. You know what I mean? Starting in another world as a vending machine. Those are two real comic book titles.
She can use it. Like, she can wield it and meld it and morph it around her, you know? And she's been collecting as much of it as she can, and it's highly valuable because the metal is effectively indestructible. Like, cuts right through steel. Bullets made out of it will shred through anything they fire through. It's just incredibly fucking strong. And she is the only person she's ever met who can control it, so she collects it, and she is a back...
Okay, so, like... We started off and are now returning to Old Man Logan because we have described adamantium.
So she always looks
or if you're a real
like
nerd,
this tough like road warrior looking
bitch
with muscular arms and rolled up sleeves, and she has a backpack, and in the backpack is like a 40-pound ingot of metal that she whips around and uses as a weapon, you know? So a brick, well, sure. Have you ever
the girl in his comic just found she just found how they do magazines in fucking in Mass Effect. Remember Mass Effect? Like, yeah, you do have to reload the gun, but it's mostly just a heat thing. The guns are full of like magic metal that gets shaved off and shot through a fucking like electromagnetic super chamber. Don't worry about it. She's tough.
Actually, no.
She's tech jacket.
How many tiers are there? Are you using tier to better explain? No, I don't. It's not like a specific idea. I just think, okay, like imagine this, okay? Like, wait, can you imagine this, okay? Imagine like what a hit squad would look like in that world, okay? Like modern day SWAT tactics, but like everybody on them has like single shot .500 Magnum round, like buck pistols that they keep in their belt. Because in case they encounter somebody who can't be killed with regular firearms, they always have something else. You know what I mean? The idea of that to me is like so fucking cool. Like,
Vaush wanders blind and ignorant into comics and reinvents every trope known to man. I feel like, if my dude would just read. This is just a scene from the Boondocks. Read. You can't make me. No. Just read a comic book, man. Like Yeah, these are great ideas, and people have had them already, and the shit fucking Old Man Logan goes hard, bro. You might like Mistborn. Just fuck Vaush reading Mistborn and being like, I've never seen anything like this before. I feel bad because I know sometimes a lot of people, I guess, just, you know, aren't as well read as me. Not like I'm hyper unique in my circles. There's people that have read more, but like I've read a fuck ton of books. I'll just say it like that. And I know that sometimes people do discover tropes that are worn to me for the first time, and it's always awesome seeing like the kind of like where like they discover the magic, and you're like, hey, if you like this, you might really like that, and that's a great moment for anybody that's into like material like this. And it's weird for Vaush to somehow be approaching it in the most ass backwards way I have ever fucking seen. Like, if you would have read more books, you could have just be talking about books and these would be your favorite tropes in it. You could just be you could have the conversation that's the like next higher than this, where you're just like, man, I always like, I'm Old Man Logan. They did something there I'd always been thinking about. It was so cool to see their execution, but I'd like to see it in a different way. But you're just so ill-read somehow. I don't know what else this guy does all day. That fucking folder has to be crammed to the gills, man. Like, I'm glad he didn't click on like properties size before he fucking went into it. But like, you can just read these exist. Just read them.
Anti-superhuman like tracking squads where they're capable of killing like tier 2s, but if it's a tier 3, they're like, oh well, and they just have like one massive fucking gun.
Tyler,
but it's like single shot because they don't use it normally. It'd just be like their their backup, their like their retainer weapon, basically. You know, there isn't a Desert Eagle 50 cal though. Yeah, but what if it was bigger? What if it was like a single shot anti-materiel rifle?
So what you're talking about is the 500 Casull, the 454 Casull, right? It is bigger. 545. What? Oh my God. Sorry, everybody. I just said it wrong. Yeah. By the way, it's the gun. It's the gun. It's the gun that fucking is in Hellsing. Oh, you thought it was fake? No, it's real. It's the 454 Casull, baby. In one of my short stories, you get to see that gun. A guy literally, okay, here, if you want, here's a pitch for a story that might exist. A couple who's having an argument has to stop for gas at a Last Chance gas station. The title of the story is Last Chance Gas. They have to stop at a Last Chance gas station out in the Nevada desert, and there's like things hovering overhead. And they don't quite notice them, these big shadows. And as they go in, they find something hits and it blows the fucking part of the gas station down. And then they're hiding inside. And they find out that there might be fucking literal dragons in the sky. And there's security guards from a nearby like research base or something. And one of them has a 454 Casull fucking firearm, one of the biggest goddamn handguns of all time. And they fight this dragon, maybe. With that gun, maybe. No spoilers. I wrote this already. I already wrote this. This is a real story. It's called Last Chance Gas. If you don't like horror necessarily, or like slope, but you like weird actiony, stuck in the desert type stories, that's one for my podcast. Check it out. With a big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. I
like,
don't
literally, like, what if this was like standard equipment for well-furnished militaries in this world? Yeah, like the 700 Nitro Express. Like literally, like they're like fighting a group of people. Their bullets like cut through the walls and windows. A bunch of people fall, like their heads turn into mist, but one person doesn't even fucking flinch, you know? And then they fucking run up and punch a dude in half, and people are like, shit. And they reach into their back fucking holster, and there's a gun with a barrel about yay wide. I don't know. I feel like, why wouldn't they use a tier 3 weapon for a tier 1 enemy, make things easier? Because the fucking recoil on those guns would break your wrists, you know?
Not mine. Yeah. I know. Like, yeah, you guys know Counterpoints probably. He's a right winger. Obviously, I don't agree with his politics, but the guy made a 410 shot. I think it's a 410 shotgun shell, fucking 3D printed bolter rifle, or handgun, a bolter from 40K. And like it works. So it auto loads 410 shotgun rounds. You shoot at the range. And I bet if I ever get a chance, because I don't know why I would ever be down in Florida, but I will put aside the left-right grudges just for the chance to shoot that fucking thing one-handed like a goddamn actual space marine. I would fucking do it.
You get what I mean, right? The point would be is that
isn't he just describing the lawgiver? He's describing a lot.
Reorganize itself around a very specific and very fastidious awareness of the relative strength differences between people. It wouldn't just be humans and then superhumans preying on them. It would be everyone constantly worrying all the time what everyone else is at. There's no way of knowing visually how
a barrel this wide. The noble blunderbuss.
That you're in the company of people you're capable of fighting and winning against, or at the very least, in a mutually assured destruction sense, people who you're capable of hurting if they try to kill you. You know? But you don't know that to be the case. You don't know if some random guy on the street is...
Okay, so this is my idea. All right, what if there was a gun, but it's in the world has fallen apart and manufacturing no longer exists like it does today, and this gun is huge. It has a nearly 1-inch barrel and it's massive, but it can't auto load like every other gun. Okay, the person actually has to sit there, pour black powder in it, and then put a wad, I call it wadding, down over the top with a little bullet in there as well. And so our guy, he has 2 of these, one on his back and one that he carries at the ready. And so he always has to pick his shots. And he's going around, and then what he's doing right now, because like it's in the government has disintegrated. He's carrying these guns around, and he's leading people trailblazing through this like dangerous area, okay, because he's got to get from like the coast, right? He's got to get from the coast inland where all this good farmland is, and it's kind of like a Vinland Saga thing. He's got to knock down all these trees, and there's like natives when he's going there, and sometimes he has to fight them, but sometimes he's like cooler with them, and he feels like conflicted about how his relationship with them is, but eventually he like knocks down all these trees, and he's fighting these people with these 2 guns. I call it reincarnating as Daniel Boone in another world.
Secretly capable of like punching through a brick wall. You have no idea. And that uncertainty breaks society. Even in cities that still function as they used to, nobody trusts anybody else because there's no way of maintaining the basic premises of the social contract, our shared vulnerability.
My man is describing cowboys.
Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep doing this forever otherwise.
Dude, okay. So I have this idea for one part. It's going to be in my thing. So what happens is it's very dangerous in this world, okay? And my hero, she can be destroyed if someone attacks her from close enough. And what happens is the person she's been hunting gets the drop on her, but doesn't shoot quick enough. And so she's got her gun pointed at him, and he's got his gun pointed at her. And so they're in a standoff. But what happens at the same time is a third party that's there also has his gun, and she's pointing a gun at him. And the guy who who got the drop on her is also doesn't know. And so all 3 of these people are pointing their guns at each other, and one of them is Latino.
Let me just pee, and then we'll play the game. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. How many viewers did we lose? No, not that many. You all want to hear me ramble about this in the future then, huh? Okay. You know what? If I ever wrote any short story like this, I'll publish it on WordPress, okay? Seriously, I'll publish it on WordPress, and you all can critique my writing, okay? Something that's very important about superhero
I thought it was
stories,
over.
though, is that you need to take inspiration from Hunter, and JoJo, okay? Because superhero stories where people's powers are like, I can teleport, I'm strong. Like, no, fuck that, okay? Your power is that you see people so hard that they...
I call it a Latino standoff.
remember their childhood and it distracts them, okay? So their solution to beating you is that they have to remember...
I have an idea for where we would film these. So it of course, because of the current capitalistic conditions in America, we could probably not film this in Hollywood, where my dad works. I know some people there, probably, you know, but it would be very expensive. But what I found is the Italians, of course, they have their own... They have their own movie industry, and I believe that we could bring the script to them and film cheaper in Italy.
Or the part of their childhood that made them know how to fight or something. Some shit like that. Just some absolute bullshit like that. Can I say one more thing and then we'll be done? I'm sorry, I'm
finishing this.
Yeah, funny rhetorician for sure. Okay, one last thing. Can we do one last thing? Please say it. Yeah, okay. It's your stream. True, it is my stream.
It is your stream, man.
Camille,
get it.
The one-armed lady. Her, I thought it'd be cool if her mother was one of the aforementioned Washington hit squad types, one of the people who gets sent after like problems that are disrupting the pseudo-warlord confederacy system that America is using to keep itself together. And it's not just America, by the way. Other parts of the world are even more
it's
fucked
like
than America.
It's so awesome for people to just re-arrive at like cattle wars. You know, like we're just like, this is a sneeze away from just talking about Pinkertons and Deadwood. Like it's so wild. I love him. I love him.
Southeast Asia and Europe that are literally just like failed states now.
Macaroni
literally
westerns.
just like Mad Max shit, you know. America maintains a vestige
Oh my
of-
god.
of stability.
Oh, shut the fuck, Amy Dinov. Pinned comment: pesto westerns are born. Yeah, it's Trigun. It's any western. It's it's any western plus sci-fi. What if I set this in space? We just get to Cowboy Bebop.
Hope you enjoyed your time on the west side. Don't forget to subscribe and like,
I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart.